Hello, hello. This is Biggest Borkus, King Ozymandias, King Ozzy, or that one pigman guy here again. This is going to be the short version of my account from my experience on Trial 2. I was known at the time, or known in the server, as Ozzy or Ozymandias, and I was the leader of the nation of 7 boats. I'm going to try to keep this under 10 minutes, but there will also be a 1 hour video going over the screenshots, and there will be a 30-minute video going over the different video captures that I did, but this is to cover the testimony bit, which to me is like the most important bit, and the other two are just kind of like flavor if you're really bored and want to hear someone say every 5 minutes. That being beside the point, I'm going to go ahead and get started on this. I have been stalling on homework by recording my shitty voice on my shitty mic for over an hour now, but I have it's a whole thing. Anyways, so I'm going to use the screenshots as reference. Don't worry about me clicking through them. I have a whole director's commentary about every screenshot, but there's quite literally 152 of these, so we'd be here all day if I went over them individually. I'm going to use them to jog my memory, though. Anyways, wasting time. Let's get started. So, first couple sessions in, going in, I knew I wanted to be in charge of a nation. I wanted to refound an old nation that I had been a part of on a separate server called Urbis Imperium. That didn't end up panning out, but, it's fine. I don't really care at this point. But anyways, obviously, like everyone else on this event, the first couple days, and honestly the first 2 sessions, were an absolute scam. Like, we were getting spawn camped by creepers, getting snow-scoped by skeletons. It was a nightmare. So, after dying, like, 10 times at least, I found a sky base that had 2 people in it, and I was like, okay, I could lead these people. More people will come by this way, and we'll pick them up too, and we'll convince all of them to become a group, and I will lead this group. So that's kind of like the gist of why 7 boats exist, is because I was just kind of like quietly collecting people together like Pokemon cards. Not that I would have needed to anyways. I think not dying is such an alluring prospect, but I think without me, there wouldn't have been a team leader, and they would have all gone with Egypt, which was right by us at the sky base. So I spent a ton of time at like 3 hearts and 3 hunger bars, and all the fish I would get, I would immediately give to other people. Not all of it. I'm not going to glaze myself that hard, but I gave a lot of it to other people because I might have been on 3 hunger bars, but they were on 0 and they were actively dying. And thankfully, somebody got 2 campfires going, so we were able to cook them. But after a session of that, we were like, this sucks. And so everybody decided to hop into a boat and head out. I was actually the only person who wanted to stay because at the time I was being an idiot, and I liked the challenge and I liked the setting of a desert. But everyone else was understandably too tired of the creepers and the starving to humor me, and so we just left on, wouldn't you know it, 7 boats. So we ended up going and disappearing off this way and settling here, and then accidentally building our settlement right next to a whole other group, which we would later discover to be Tugypt. But at the time, we didn't know what it was, and we assumed it was a Zerg of some kind, like one of those big, chaotic groups of murder hobos. Thank the Lord in heaven above it wasn't, because we are literally a river across. But no, we built up our group here. At this point, we finally become 7 boats because we were talking a lot about how we need to prepare ourselves in case this other group attacks us, and so we were like, well, we need to be a team, so we chose 7 boats as a placeholder name, and it just kind of stuck. But now it's like our whole personality, and we love it. So nothing quite permanent. Nothing's quite as permanent as a temporary solution. You know what I mean? Thankfully, Egypt was quite friendly. They would just kind of give us free stuff and just let us hang out. After that, though, we got some visits. I mean, we got visits from all sorts of random people. There were so many people that visited our town. It's honestly hard to keep track of. But we didn't go that far from spawn, and we didn't build that far away from other towns, so it was quite a social area. Especially since we were next to Egypt, which was the leading faction of the Earth or of World 2. Uh, but then, oh, sorry, one of the factions we came across was Seamen of Axes. They weren't known as Seamen of Axes at the time. I think they were just called Seamen, but we discovered there was another Seaman on World 1, and so they became, the World 2 ones became Seamen of Axes. They were a band of pirates, absolute assholes, with a leader that actively spread misinformation, tried to get people banned off the Discord so then they wouldn't log on and fight him like PvP on the server. He was just a bitch ass motherfucker. And anyways, I'm not gonna waste any more time with him. But he had visited our town pretending to be friendly, and I was like, oh, this guy seems like a nice guy, even if he does call himself a pirate nation. Oh, how naive I was to assume that all humans are good and well-meaning. And they stole our sugarcane. We didn't know it at the time. And they stole the sugarcane of Egypt. And so Egypt amassed an army. Seamen figured out, launched an attack against Egypt, but were just hilariously outnumbered. And so they got absolutely gunned down. This is me, the screenshot specifically is of me being late to the war, because Seven Boats was also invited to the war. And the whole fight lasted 5 minutes. Only their best warriors were equipped in iron armor, and they chose to flee. Excuse me, they chose to flee and or die. And so that left the actual citizens, the normal people that are actually putting in the backbreaking work, to fend for themselves and ultimately get slaughtered. Because again, they're just shitty people like that. At the time, I thought I felt pretty bad or pretty conflicted because I didn't know who to believe. Because the only reason we knew Seamen of Axes at the time was bad was because Egypt told us, and we didn't know if Egypt was manipulating us or not. And they seemed to be nice enough, or the Seamen of Axes seemed to be nice enough when they had visited the first time, and their leader had come back begging for help. And I had to turn him down, and it weighed heavy on my heart at the time because I was like, "Look, I love you, and or I like you as an ally and a friend. You seem like a good guy, and your nation has been utterly destroyed, and I empathize with that, but I just trust Egypt's judgment on this, and I'm sorry that it has to be this way." I felt genuinely conflicted, but I told him, "You need to leave, but I will let you leave with your life, but don't ever come back, please." So he left. Life went on. We continued to build up the city. Then him and his faction came back and killed every last one of us, broke all of our beds, and stole all of our stuff. And so that proved to me that they were obviously liars, but it would only get much, much worse for their faction's reputation, especially since all of their good players, like morally good, decided to either leave the server or join other factions. I actually have a screenshot of one. Yeah, this guy right here was just like a well-meaning farmer that they just ignored. He didn't like the wars. He didn't like anything like that. He just farmed. And he was one of the people that was left to pick up the pieces after their city was destroyed. And they abandoned him. They abandoned him and all those other hard workers. And so the only people that were left in Seamen after the First War were the absolute worst of their group. So they were just absolute scum of the earth. They loved name calling. They loved killing random farmers. And they even went as, it's been a funny example. I didn't take it personally, but I think it goes to show how far they were willing to go. Because my character is a pigman skin, one of them started oinking at me while I was arguing with him. He was outside of our city walls, and I was arguing with him, and he was losing the argument, so he just started oinking at me. And also, by the way, he then proceeded to kill one of my unarmored naked citizens because my citizen walked up right next to him just to see what he would do. And when I had turned around to equip my iron armor because I had left it in my house, the dude killed him while I was gone in the 10 seconds I was gone. And then that pirate would spend the rest of the server with his tail between his legs, and he ended up getting killed in Egypt because he was a glutton for punishment. Anyways, there were so many people that we visited and so many, interesting stories. I really could talk about this server all day. And you can see from the other videos, I had like an hour and a half of me yapping. But anyways, my nation was pretty good friends, obviously with Egypt. We had the nice bridge here. Sylvia, they at least liked us, sort of. And then we had pretty good, like, conversational friendship with every other faction outside of that. I always made sure to be very nice to everybody when I visited their faction, to be respectful of their requests, no matter how pedantic or whatever. Because I knew that they had their reasons, and there was, even if I didn't understand them, there's no need to be rude about it, you know? So, especially when I went to Friendship Island, they were all on edge because they were such kind and well-meaning people, and the world had just kind of betrayed them, and it was heartbreaking to see such nice people have to be so mean. Like, you could tell their hearts weren't into it, and they would much rather be back on Friendship Island, uh, farming and just goofing off. So, again, the pirates were the absolute worst thing to ever happen to the server. But anyways, just to reel this back in, after the raids, we locked in. Every faction locked in, and we vowed to never let that happen again. We all kitted out on iron armor. We finished the defenses of the city, and me, Egypt, Mountain Keep, and Sylvia were in constant communications to mitigate the pirate threat, share any information we have about the pirates and pirate activity, and that was part of why the pirates became far less effective. Their leader tried to downplay it later on, being like, oh, we were just bored of the server. But the truth of the matter is they couldn't find an opening anymore. They took advantage in their first raid on a kind world that was open and loving to everyone, and they reaped what they sowed because there was no corner on the earth that they could visit where they were welcome, and they were not good PvPers. They were just they're like, they're bullies, they strut their stuff and try to act all mean and tough, but the minute anybody tries to fight back, they fall apart. And so between all of the efforts we had, we killed every pirate we got our hands on, and we would hunt them, we looked for strongholds, and we even had a whole system set up where we were going to like start scouting the wilderness to look for pirate strongholds, but ended up being too late in the sessions to actually bear any fruit from that. But here you can even see here one of these meetings, and it's honestly, this server is quite fascinating. I won't go into the specifics, but this is one of the only servers I've seen where you can actually get people to shut the fuck up and let the people in charge talk. And I think it's because people took the server seriously, but also because the server was so slow-paced compared to other events. It gave people, people didn't have to have their neurons being frazzled constantly, so they could just sit and listen. And so this meeting was relatively quiet, considering there was like a dozen people in here at most. And it was mostly me, who was the king of 7 boats, Commandant over here, the leader of Sylvia, Jack Black, the leader of Mountain Keep, which is a unified nation of most of South Beacon and all of IRS, and then obviously the Pharaoh, the illustrious Pharaoh on his golden throne. And I think that's the gist of it. I mean, that's 15 minutes, so at least you'll have a short version of my account. But just to wrap things up, I wasn't on the 14th session, but I was on for all of the other 13 ones, except I was late to like one, like for like an hour, but I was active for the rest of them. And personally, I think this was the most fulfilling, fun, wholesome, but stressful event I have ever participated in. you know, everybody on the server was just so kind and so giving and so patient, and it was so much fun to be with other people that were like this, and that wanted to build a community together. And I am so proud of everything my group did, and I love them all so much. And they're just all awesome people. And as much as we talked about the pirates and how hateful they were, and they were hateful, the meat and the potatoes of this event were the people. And they were the reason to log on every day for 4 hours a fucking day, and slog it through this massive beast of an event. And it was for them, and as their leader, I could not have asked for a better faction or for better friends or for harder workers, and I'm so proud of them, and I love them all. But I mean, the other side of it is also, I think I lost hairs. I might actually have like gray on my beard after this event, because maybe I just wasn't good at like dividing labor. But as the sole executor of the state, like this, the sole head of state, I had, I was constantly, and I cannot emphasize this enough. I was constantly talking to other people, and I have an annoying voice. I know that I have a slightly annoying voice, and I already yap anyways and run over people when I talk. But all of this was put to the test when I had to be the leader of 14 people, and I I mean, I learned a lot about people and socializing, and honestly, I think it changed me as a person. But by the end of the event, I was just exhausted. Like, it was fun, but it was like a 4-week event where you played 4 hours a day, 4 days a week, and every day I was, excuse me, I had a burp there. Every day I was working on the faction, and it was a labor of love. Nobody was forcing me to do this, but and I can't speak for everybody. For all I know, everybody had it 10 times worse. But speaking from personal experience, it was there were some low lows mixed in with those high highs. Especially whenever I thought about the Pirates. The Pirates, like, just saying their name was always crash out material, because not only did they stand against everything I stood for as a group, like as a person, especially for these events, it was also just genuinely heartbreaking to see my people hurt and robbed for no reason. And I think that's just what the Pirates did was just incredibly shitty. And they're shitty people, and I'm so happy we stomped them into the dirt like the little bitches they were, and that they couldn't find an ounce of fun by the end of the server. Because if your fun is robbing people, well, I'm sorry, you're not welcome here. You're just gonna have to log off, and that's what they did. And it was our teamwork that did that. But no, I've genuinely, last thing I'll say, but I genuinely felt like a father, like a middle-aged father of four. I was so tired by the end of it. Again, I'm tooting my own horn, but it's the end of the video. Who gives a shit? But to me, it was all worth it. All the work I put in, all the lost sleep. I mean, not just from the event, but also from hanging out in the Discord, the Civlabs Discord after the event, just talking to people. It's probably some of the most fun I've ever had in a long time, and I think I would genuinely remember this event for years to come. Maybe not the specifics, but I will always remember how it made me feel and just how awesome the people were. And so, yeah, thank you for having me here. Sorry that I'm giving you way too much information. Like I said, I am an absolute info dumper and a yapper, and I do apologize for that 100 times over. But yeah, God bless you, and you're awesome, and you should feel awesome. This was a great event, and I can't wait to see everybody in the next one.